pertinent Steeler questions as we go into the second half of the season. First, next up is a trip to L.A. against the Rams. Are you feeling good, okay, or poorly about that, and why? Ron?
Poorly. Tough trip out west. I think the Rams are good. Cooper Kupp is back. The receivers they have now going against that Steelers secondary. Now I know, they got to deal with Highsmith and Watt. And yesterday the Rams ran. They had a running back run for 158 yards. They look like they're getting it together a little bit to me. I think it's just a tough matchup for the Steelers, Bob.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just because it's going to be difficult to try to stop Puka Nacua, although because Cooper Kupp is back, he's not getting as much action, but he still is a very good young receiver who they utilize and scheme for. When you add Williams, their running back, in on it, it's going to be a tough assignment for the Steelers' defense, which puts more emphasis on the Steelers' offense. And I don't know if they're going to be able to come right out of this bye and outscore them. That's my biggest concern.
I feel poorly about it. The one thing that gives me a little bit of hope is that the Steelers look like a different team coming out of the bye last year, so hopefully they can make those same kind of adjustments again this year coming out of the bye, but I think the Rams are starting to put it together here. It seems like they're getting better. You mentioned Cooper Kupp getting back, and it looks like Matt Stafford's arm is alive again, and they do have a running game this time with Kyren Williams back there.
I feel okay. Not good, but okay. I feel okay that it's going to be a close game. I feel okay that this team has scored, after popping 30 on the Seahawks, they've scored 23, 16. What did they get? 14 against the Eagles, and then they get 26 against the Cardinals, who might be the worst team in the league. I think it's going to be a close game. I do. And I think that Tomlin.
Steelers are 3.5-point underdogs, by the way.
Yeah, 3.5-point underdogs. Tomlin has been able to win close games. He's been breaking even pretty much, but the numbers show that in these close games that the Steelers have, they have a knack for winning at the end. Pickett has shown that early in his career, right? And I think this might be that kind of game. You know who's having a good year for them is Ahkello Witherspoon. Did you see that?
Yes, he is. Just like when he came here first, the first few games were pretty good.
He was good his first year here, pretty much.
Then it went the other way.
And then you look at the other number one receivers that they've played throughout this season, the Nico Collins, the Amari Coopers, and Brandon Ayuk, all these guys have put up big numbers.
Devontae Adams.
Yep.
I do worry about the secondary, but I hope that Joey Porter's going to get more time.
You would hope.
This would be a good game to get him more time.
I would like them to get a little radical here with their use of Minkah Fitzpatrick. He should not be just a second-level tackler, and that's what he's become because of the way things have evolved.
Yeah.
He needs to be, featured more somehow, some way. Not unlike what Polamalu used to bring to them because he has those qualities. And I think when he first came here in that first year, he had like 6 interceptions because it was happening that way. So I don't know how they do it. That's for them to figure out, but I would like to see him more active, wouldn't you, Ron?
Yeah. I mean, he's just not making the splash plays.
Question number 2, Najee and Jalen. Let's see. So far, 63 carries to 34 for Najee. But then in terms of catches, it's 21 for Jalen, 5 for Najee. He's all but disappeared from the pass offense, and that was one of the reasons they drafted him. Said he caught balls like a wide receiver.
And he did in his first year.
And we've actually seen some of that, yes.
How about the catch he made against Baltimore to win the game?
That's disappeared completely.
He's only been targeted 9 times, Jalen 25. So it's sort of a normal distribution for what you would suggest is the base offense back and the third down back. One guy runs more, the other guy catches more. Would you like to see a change here, Ron? Would you like to see the touches be closer to 50-50, or would you like to see Warren become the guy?
No, I'm okay with Najee starting and still being the guy. And the way it's working has been pretty good. Maybe a couple more carries for Warren would make me happy, but I'm okay with the way they're using him. I think they're getting a lot of production out of both of them. I'm okay with Najee still being the starter, Bob.
I would just like to see them use him more in the pass game when he's in there instead of always just running the ball on first and second down. They used to do that, and I think he still has the skills to do that, especially if you put him one-on-one. He may not be able to outrun you like Warren can do, but he can plow you over and make you miss a little bit, so I'd like to see more of that.
Ron, when you say this is working, they have a bottom 5 rushing attack, and I think they're bottom 5 and bottom 6 in average yards per carry. I don't think their run game is working very well.
Yeah, I mean, they're 3-2, and they're making some plays when they had to. I mean, I thought Warren made some really big plays to help them win the game the other day against Baltimore. I mean, they haven't ran the ball. They got behind so fast against San Francisco and even to a lesser degree Houston that it takes away from their ability to run the ball.
So neither one of you would start Jalen then, or would you, Bob?
No.
Folsey?
No, I wouldn't necessarily start Jalen Warren. I'm okay with Najee getting the first carries of the game if that's what starting a game is like, if you have two running backs that get virtually the same amount of touches. I just want to see them not run the ball in such an obvious way of like every first, like Bob, you just said it, every first down, Steelers are going to run the football again.
It's too predictable.
Yeah. Like, change it up every once in a while. My goodness.
How about a real well-designed screenplay right out of the boot? Something that we haven't really seen.
Ben lobbied for the other day. We always used to. I used to hear people complain. Remember, he'd throw those quick wide receiver screens. They said they're doing them too often. He says, I haven't seen one all year of those.
Yeah,
those with the blocking that's set up.
They used to be frustrating because they'd lose 2 yards.
Right.
But
I want to see actually more of Najee, which might be counterintuitive, but the running game stinks right now. And I think he's the one that needs to get going. And I would give him a shot to get going. And he actually has a better average than Warren. And 3 big runs to none for Warren. I mean, and a longer run than Warren has. What'd they draft this guy for? What did they do down the stretch last season? They fed him. Every running back I've ever talked to wants to get into a rhythm. And it's hard for him to get into one when he's not getting the ball a ton. I'd like to see him become a 25-carry guy and use Warren as your third down back, if that's what you want to do. He's got some ability to make first downs, some jump to his game that Najee doesn't have. But I haven't seen a ton from Warren in the run game. He's been worse than Najee by every number.
I don't know. It just seems to me that he hits the hole harder and has a chance to make more plays because of his explosiveness. I understand.
But he's not doing that really in the run game.
I understand. Well, you just said how few carries he has compared to Najee, right?
Yeah. So you want him to have more then?
I said a few more would be okay with me. I like having a 2-man attack. I love when Cleveland had Chubb and Kareem Hunt last year. I thought they used that very effectively. I think you can use 2 guys effectively.
I'd like to see
look what
one
they're
guy
doing in
getting
Miami.
rhythm.
They're using Raheem Mostert, and they have A-Chain, and
Mostert has like 11 touchdowns already.
Yeah, he and Tyreek together have 17 already. Think about that.
Well, I mean, we're talking about a different sport when we're talking about Miami.
Certainly
It feels like
are.
you could throw anybody. It feels like you could throw Najee or Jalen there. Neither one of these guys is getting the job done on the ground. Now, is that the line? Is that the lack of a pass game? Is that the coordinator? Their running game just isn't good.
Or is that falling way behind in 2 games early? I think that's a significant factor.
Could be that too.
Once you get behind, you got to throw the ball more.
Any way you slice it, they have one of the worst ground attacks in the league. So, and I think Cowher's right that for whether anybody likes it or not, if the Steelers are going to get on track offensively, they better run the ball. Do we agree with that?
Yeah, especially when your quarterback's struggling.
And then play off of that and sequence in more of the play-action game. You got to be under center to do that, though, in my view, and they don't do enough of that.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 3. So we all say that the touches should be about 50-50 then between pass and run, between those two, around there?
Something. But variations.
Because a lot of people think that Jalen Warren is simply the better player and should start or play more.
I'm leaning to getting to that point, but I'm not there yet. I'm still willing to stick with Najee.
But I would like to see a little elegant deviation, a little something different there.
Elegant.
Something that they don't expect from a play design. In other words, use them, but use them differently.
From the sounds of it, then, and this is pertinent question number 3, nobody here would make a case to pick up Najee's 50-year option. From the way we're all talking, there is no case, correct?
Not yet. Maybe by the end of the year.
Yeah, no.
They don't have to make that decision until then. Right now, I could say no.
Bob, you agree with that?
Right now, no, yes.
Right now, no, yes.
Yes, no.
Correct.
Ballsy?
Yes, no. I mean, the case would be to keep both running backs just so you could have this two-headed monster going forward. Monster, quote unquote. But just this system, I guess, moving forward. Like, do you really want to go rely just on Jaylen Warren and then try to find another running back?
I mean, I have no case to present to a jury that it makes sense to sign Najee Harris to a fifth-year option or to extend him, whatever the phrasing you want to use there. I can get a lot of guys to average under 4 yards a carry and never break a big run. Sorry, but that's just his career in a large way to this point, right?
Totally. I mean, the evidence isn't there to suggest that he should get one right now either, and they have to make smart business decisions. Now, if the second half of the season he goes off and
Like he did last year.
and then things can change, yes. But for now, no. But they don't have to make that decision anytime soon. So,
And he has run behind some horrendous offensive lines. And we can agree on that, I think, right?
Absolutely.
How much does that factor in?
Yes, and he was good down the stretch last year. That's the best I ever saw him. And it kind of started with New Orleans, 99 yards, 5 yards a carry. Cincy, 90 yards, 4.5. Couple rough games. Atlanta, 5 yards a carry, 86 yards. Baltimore, 111 yards, 5 yards a carry.
I thought that was his best game.
You know, there's way more in there, but I think it's hard for a running back to really get it done without a lot of work. Those games he was getting 24, 23, 24 carries. You know, I think it's unrealistic to expect him to achieve maximum damage when he's getting 14 carries or 10 carries. He hasn't gotten 20 carries in a game yet this year.
and that's a little surprising to me, given the way they ended last year and what I thought they were going to do. I thought that would be one of the things you'd see a little bit more of.
Can't be what they were thinking when they drafted him. Yeah, here's a guy that we're actually going to take a running back in the first round, but we're not going to give him the ball 20 times in any game in his third year in the league. That couldn't have been the plan.
But again, I'll say it, they haven't ran the ball that many times. It's not that Warren has taken so many carries away from him. They haven't ran the ball that
Because they have too many 3 and outs. They don't have enough offensive
that's
plays.
Tomlin's point. You know,
You got to have plays.
If we didn't have 3 and outs, we'd have a lot more plays for everybody.
But in their 3-1 score games, he has 14, 10 carries, and 19. He still hasn't hit 20 carries in their close games.
Right. And that's a problem.
So something's wrong with the run game. Something was right last year, and it's wrong now. You know, and they better get it fixed or they're not going to survive.
I would agree with that.
Question number 3, and I don't know that Jaylen Warren is, if people want him to be the every down back, I don't know. His numbers just aren't good so far in the run game. I consider him more of a change of pace back. We'll see how Mike Tomlin plays it. Question number 3, what happens to George Pickens' targets when Deontay comes back? Which could be in this game. George Pickens is finally getting the ball a little bit, which I think is a great thing. So what happens now?
I think you're going to have you're going to see both of those guys. You know, maybe it'll be at the expense of Allen Robinson or Calvin Austin. I think you're both going to see them being targeted a number of times. You know, Deontay is a legitimate wide receiver in this league. You got to throw to him too. Throw to the open guy, right?
I think if you're looking for third down extensive plays that can change, drives, Deontay Johnson is your man. And I know people are going to say, well, he drops the ball where he runs back. I mean, come on. He's not going to do that all the time. What he will do is get it and run after the catch. He has that ability better than anyone on this team. So I would utilize that, but I would never shy away from George Pickens. But what we saw last week was what they should be doing a lot more of in games, especially if it's zero coverage and he's just one guy to beat. Take it every single time.
Yeah, I mean, I throw to Pickens even when he's not open, which actually Pickett does. A lot of those back shoulder throws. He didn't get targeted 10 times in a game last season. Since Deontay went down, that's happened twice. 10 for 127 against Cleveland, 10 for 130 against Baltimore. And he was one of the main, if not the main reasons from an offensive standpoint they won those games.
I think we said other than Watt, he might be their MVP.
So I'm giving him double-digit targets every game if I can for the rest of his career, if I can. That's how good he is. And I don't know where that leaves Deontay, but this guy's their number one receiver. Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
Yes. And don't
Meany?
forget about Fryermuth. He needs to get back and into this picture.
I know. That would be helpful. He's been just a complete missing person.
Invisible.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say for next week, if Fryermuth is out, I mean, it's going to be the Pickens and Deontay show as far as targets. Who else are you going to go to consistently? I mean, Calvin Austin looks like a one-trick pony at this point. Could send him deep. Okay, maybe he gets open, he catches a deep ball, but I haven't seen him catch really anything else besides that. There's Connor Hayward there.
Well, but I also think, again, it's limited offensive plays. You can only have so much. You have to extend drives. This is where it comes down to. They have to have, like last night, Buffalo, for as bad as they were in the first three quarters, Joe, when they needed it, put together a 17-play drive and then a 12-play drive.
I know,
That
but
kind of
wasn't a
stuff.
large part of that. Josh Allen was Houdini last night. He was running around
Okay,
like
but you
absolute
have to extend
crazy.
plays. You have to get,
I
and they
know,
ran the ball in
but
that
not
17.
everybody has him.
No, but they ran the ball a lot with the 17-play drive. It wasn't just
That was
him.
a good drive. That was a good drive. I just think when you have a star receiver, looking at Antonio Brown's targets right now through his whole career, and I'm not saying this guy's Antonio Brown because nobody except Jerry Rice, in my opinion, was. Maybe Randy Moss. He's one of the top 3 or 4 receivers who ever lived. Listen to his targets as we would go along, like in 2014 by game, 12, 10, 11, 12, 10, 13, 13, 16, 23 targets in a game, 11, 12, 14, 10. If you have a star receiver, go to him.